All right. Hi, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Savor Food and Body. Today, I have Julie Newman, also known as the Intuitive Trainer on Instagram. She's joining us today. And she is a certified personal trainer through the National Academy of Sports Medicine and Personal Fitness Systems. And she's a certified coach, and she does a lot of continuing education around fitness, nutrition specialties such as intuitive eating, counseling, and body image and coaching. So Julie's totally the one-stop full package deal when it comes to this work, which is why I love her work. Her philosophy is that working out, daily activities, and eating should be a source of joy in a person's life, not a source of frustration. And she takes a non-diet approach to health, fitness, and believes that all bodies deserve respect to take care of themselves. So that's kind of a nutshell of, we're going to get into some more nuances around that. And Julie, I am just so excited to have you on the podcast. And I've been following your work for a long time. You have such a great Instagram account. It's so inspiring and informative too, like helping people, like how do we get through diet culture muck with enjoying to move our bodies. And I'm just so grateful that you're here today. So if you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about how you got started in this intuitive movement, health at every size space as a coach.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me on here. I'm also a big fan of your work. I get inspired by you on a regular basis. So it's so fun to connect in real life now. Well, virtual real life.
Right.
We're not in real life, but anyways,
One day.
yes. So I started working as a trainer. Well, I've been doing fitness for about 10 years. But let me back up a little bit before that. So, like a lot of people, I have a long history of dieting. I was put on my first diet when I was 10 years old. I remember going to Weight Watchers meetings with my mom. And so just from a very young age, I just never felt like I was good enough until I could get my body this certain way. Like once I could get my body a certain way, then I would be worthy of love. Then, people would like me. Then I wouldn't have any problems. So I would try to overcompensate by always being funny and, being nice and all these kind of things. And unfortunately, by the time I was 17, the chronic dieting and losing and gaining weight turned into an eating disorder that I struggled with for over a decade. My weight was all over the place, up and down. I had 3 children during that time. Just really struggled with my body image, how to feed myself, and then exercise. I would have what I would call a good relationship with it for a little bit, and then it would turn disordered, and then it would be absolutely nothing. And so just kind of just all over the place with all of this. Which I feel is helpful now, as far as I can relate to a lot of people. I spent a lot of years in a bigger body. I've spent the eating disorder and the chronic dieting, so I can relate to a lot of these struggles, and I get how hard it is. Even when you hear these messages and they click with you, it's still so hard to actually implement and make that change. When I was about 30, I was having some heart issues, and I remember sitting in the doctor's office and they had done an ultrasound. And I remember looking at my heart and seeing how delicate the valves were, like just how they opened and shut. And it just really struck me. I just felt this connection with my body, and I saw it in this different way, where I saw the inside and everything that my body was doing to keep me alive and to support me. And I was probably at my sickest at this point. And I remember just sobbing and thinking, I can't do this anymore. I want to love my body. I want to take care of it. I'm so tired of hating my body. This thing I'm going to be with the rest of my life. There has to be more to life than this. So I reached out. I was lucky enough that there's a really great eating disorder treatment place up the street from my house called Center for Change. Yeah. And reached out to them, and they introduced me to intuitive eating. And I wasn't quite ready for that yet. So I kind of was managing my eating disorder, but I was still doing macros and these kind of things, thinking that was, recovery. And so it was better, but it wasn't as free and fully recovered as I knew, as I even didn't even know was possible. Right. I still thought, well, I still have to be a good woman and watch my weight and these kind of things. So a few years later, though, I was managing these eating disorders behaviors, and then I had a relapse as I started working as a trainer. There was just so much pressure to be, super lean and super fit. So I just started doubling my exercise and cutting my calories and just nailing my macros obsessively. I would weigh my peanut butter. I would weigh my salsa. I remember weighing my salsa. Like, that's how extreme it got. Um, and my body just crashed. I was just exhausted and like, okay, I got into this industry to help people be healthy, and I am the exact opposite of healthy. This is not healthy. And I remember I was making a salad one night while my family was eating, and I was weighing my dressing, and I looked over my daughter. My daughter was watching me, and it just hit me. I'm like, I can't pass this on to her. I can't pass this legacy of this is what women weigh their salad dressing and eat salads while the rest of the family eat pasta. I'm like, I just can't do it anymore. So I went back to Center for Change, and I was ready. I was like, give it to me. tell me, I'm ready. And I really, really embraced health at every size, intuitive eating. I just didn't even know that was possible, to sit in front of my therapist and for her to say, you don't have to do this anymore. You don't have to obsess about your body and what you eat. And it was like I had been in this prison my whole life, and she was letting me know, the key's in your pocket. Take it out and open the door and go. It's going to be a transition. It's going to be difficult. It's going to be hard, but you're keeping yourself in this prison, and you are free to leave whenever you're ready. And I'm like, I'm ready. Let's do it. So I just embraced it. And that's how I work now with my clients, seeing exercise as taking care of their body, that beautiful heart, and just empowering them through movement to not always try to be smaller, but to live a bigger life. So
I
that was a long
love that.
answer.
Yeah, no, I love that. I think it's so important, not only for us as providers, but even, asking our clients to find their why. Why do you not want to do this anymore? Or helping them seeing their picture of the heart story. In my case, it was hanging off of a climbing rope, coming down from a high pass and going, I love being out here, but my body is crashing in a lot of different ways, and it's going to keep me from doing this. And I think once we have those moments, they're literally aha moments for us, going, I don't want to do this anymore. Or look at in your case, look at what my body is capable of, and look at how hard it is working to keep me alive. And am I helping it do that? Or am I fighting against it with me trying to keep myself alive? I mean, that's really what eating disorders are, right? But the irony in them, especially around the orthorexic culture, we can't be well enough, healthy enough, like having this health looks like this in order to still be young enough. I mean, the spiral, the
Yes.
downward rabbit hole. And so the irony, just like you said, here you are being a personal trainer to help people be healthy, and behind the scenes, your body is a disaster, and it's struggling with every fiber of its being to try to be healthy. And whether it's personal training or it's nutrition counseling, I think it's really interesting how we work kind of in this dichotomy of we're helping with health, but the general overall view of health is not necessarily what is actually going to make people physically healthy. So I'm wondering, as you started your journey into healing your body, how did that shift your perspective as a personal trainer and the work that you did as a personal trainer? And just how do you still continue to show up in that industry, but now from a little bit different, with a different lens on of how not to be focused on the counting, the weighing, the macros, and the toning and the washboard abs and all of that. Like how has your perspective now as a trainer shifted?
Yeah, well, I think because I did experience it, and I know a lot of trainers, and I know what they go through behind the scenes. So, and I, no judgment, no judgment at all. But when I have clients say to me, "Oh, blah blah blah," and you just don't know what's going on with that person. Um, I've seen people that have pretty big accounts. Well, I don't know, maybe this, I don't know. This is a good story, but I saw someone, she has a huge following. She's a fitness person. She took a picture of her eating a burger, and then afterwards she threw it away. She didn't actually eat it, but she posted a picture of her eating it. And I would never say who this is. And again, all I felt was so much compassion for her. I'm like, that has got to be so hard. And I get it, because when you're a fitness person or a nutrition person or anyone in the health and beauty fitness industry, there's this idea that this is what health looks like. It has a look. And if you don't live up to that, you don't know what you're talking about. I'll pick my dietitian or my trainer based on their body, which is just silly, because that person could know absolutely nothing about how to train you or feed you or help you feed yourself. You just can't tell a person's knowledge or their capabilities, or if they'll click with you based on what they look like. So what I've had to do is really dig into my ideal client, because there are always going to be people who will look at me and judge if they want to work with me based on my body, and that's always going to be the way it is. And I can either try to hustle and earn those people's money and those people's time, or I can be myself, speak about my story, speak about why I do what I do, and this is my body. This is my body when I'm taking care of it and fueling it, exercising in a balanced way, and I'm at peace with it. If that sounds good to you, let me help you get there. And so I speak to who I want to work with and who's ready to have a different approach. And I let the other people find their person, which was really huge for me to kind of get to that place. And I'm not going to lie, I would say daily, I have to work on this. Being in this industry is rough. I'm in a lot of groups with a lot of personal trainers and all across the size spectrum. And every single one of them struggles with it, though. Women who you think are like the fittest, most beautiful women, they sometimes are the ones struggling the most with not feeling lean enough. They have a very skewed view of what their body is supposed to look like. It's never enough. So that it's very sad, but it also brings me comfort knowing, hey, we all struggle with this. I can let it stop me, or I can let it empower me and let it connect me to those clients and be like, I get it. I get this culture we're in is really hard. It's really hard to make these changes, but you fight for it. You fight for it every day because it's so worth it. Yeah, again, right, a long answer, right. But I hope
no, it's a great answer. And so complete too. And again, just highlighting that irony of when our clients have perceptions of what should a trainer look like, what should, a nutrition professional look like. The irony behind that is if they're going to judge purely on the looks, they might end up with someone who is unhealthy behind the scenes. And I've said this numerous times, and it's not a dig at my graduate work or school or anything, but I feel as dietitians, from a weight-centric model, we're taught how to give people eating disorders. I mean, we're taught to teach people how to count. Like, here's your range of calories, here's your range of your protein, carbs, and fats, and just encouraging people to focus on that as a measure of health. And so to shift that view of health away from numbers completely, Metabolic lab values, that's a different story. I mean,
Right.
that's part of self-care, is to go get your annual labs done. But again, we can have conversations around cholesterol, blood sugar from a weight neutral perspective, and broaden. I think that's how I view all of our work in this health at every size space, is we're working to broaden this definition of health and
Mhm.
asking our clients to redefine health for themselves separate from the looks. And I think, like you said, that to be a provider, to be a coach for someone who is ready, and being clear in your messaging, saying like, this is what I'm about. And when someone's ready, they're looking specifically for you. They're looking for someone that they can get movement support from, exercise support from, that is not also going to give them a list of do and do not eat foods. I mean, that's where a lot of my clients end up, and they're like, how do I find this? How do I navigate this movement piece? I've done it as a part of diet culture. I've doesn't done it as a restriction tool or as a purging tool, but I don't want to do that anymore. But my body's stiff if I don't move. So how do I find that balance between moving for enjoyment and moving in a disordered way? And there was a question that I found on an article that you were interviewed for, for Health Lib. It was the title of the article, and it's a question that comes up all the time with either I'm asking clients or they'll ask me. And it's this question of, would you exercise if you knew it had no impact on your looks? And I'm wondering, how do you address that with clients? Or do you bring that up to them and like present them with that question, or do you get that question too? How do you navigate from the movement perspective, that how do we detach movement from diet culture so that we can find that joy again?
Right. No, this question comes up all the time, whether they bring it up to me or I see patterns with my clients and we stop and like, let's have a conversation about this. Um, I think the first thing to do is recognize what the purpose of movement is. Why are we exercising? It has, and that the general why is because it is good for you. It makes you feel better. There's all these health benefits. And then you might have your own deeper why, which is what I like to get into with my clients. So I have an awesome client right now that came to me. She's like, I just want to be able to go hiking with my family and go to the playground and play around. She just wanted the energy and the mobility and the flexibility to do these things that sounded really fun for her. So that was her deeper why. But recognizing that diet culture has hijacked exercise. Like, it didn't start, it wasn't invented as a way of, having a firm butt and these things. It was, human beings have been moving since the existence of human beings. It's how our bodies are made. And taking that back, I think, is very empowering. Taking ownership of movement, saying, hey, I deserve to move my body in my way, on my own terms, and have, just because this industry and these products are being sold to me saying, oh, this is the purpose of exercise, you can reject that. You can absolutely reject that and say, nope, I get to, like, I love the term redefine. I get to redefine what fitness is for me and what exercise, the purpose it has in my life. And then asking yourself, is this helping or is this hurting? So as you're navigating, whether it's following a program or training for a race, or there's no wrong or right. It's so about the individual and how it's affecting them. So really digging into, is this helping me or hurting me? And then, just being flexible with all of that. But I shout from the rooftops to let people know it is possible. I know some people just think that's just how it is. Exercise is just always going to be about weight loss. But it really, look at kids. Kids aren't, they just play. They play soccer, they do karate, they run around. They're just moving their bodies, and they're not thinking about, I hope this firms my butt, or, they're just moving, and you see the joy. And adults can have that too. There's no age limit on having joy with movement. It's not just for children.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up that kid piece. Oftentimes, and maybe I don't know if you've done this with your clients too, but when we're talking about movement with my clients, I'll have them do a little bit of a meditation if it feels comfortable to them. And the dialogue, if you will, with the meditation is to think about a time when you moved your body without worrying about what it looked like in the process or what that movement was hopefully going to do to your body. And oftentimes they'll go back to a time when they were a kiddo and they were running and they were playing Red Rover or dodgeball or, whatever. They were just playing. And to have that conversation around play is movement. Like you were saying, people have been moving their bodies either for functionality to run after the deer to go get dinner or um, or just playing, and that is an important part of being human. Our bodies were meant to move. I remember interviewing Margaret Fletcher and talking about intuitive eating with diabetes and all of that, and she's an avid cyclist, as am I, and so we talked briefly about this movement piece in relation, of course, to diabetes. And she's the one that said, our bodies are designed to move. They just are. We have different abilities. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same across the spectrum, and people that have limited abilities for whatever reason, we can still honor some kind of movement
Mm-hmm.
in their body, even if it feels there are certain parts of their body that don't function as well. Are there other parts of their body that they also enjoy moving? So again, kind of redefining movement, just like we redefine what is healthy eating, what is health in general. You're right. I think that redefining word is kind of the branding word of this whole health at every size intuitive eating work that we do, where that's what we're constantly doing every day is shouting for the rooftops. How do we redefine? So I think that's really helpful to have people hear, especially if they've come from this place of, well, movement is how I earn or burn my food. And how do we separate the earning and burning conversation from moving? So I'm curious, what might that look like for you with a client, um, to help them separate that earning and burning, calories in, calories out mentality? What goes through in your conversations with a client? You talk about
Right.
that.
Yeah, this is a huge problem. Oh, I saw a Noom ad the other day that had like an ice cream cone or something, and it said this equals so much minutes of working out, but we're not a diet. And I'm like, it's so harmful. Why? Like, it just blows my mind that companies still advertise the earn and burn. So again, recognizing this is super common. It's oh, you hear it all the time. Like, it's when you go for around the holidays, every spin teacher or whatever is you got to earn your turkey and all that kind of stuff. So just one, recognizing, okay, this is a culture, this is common, but then again, empowering yourself to say, I don't need to participate in this. So what I usually do is I start with the science. The science shows it actually doesn't work that way. Exercise, and I'm always careful when I talk about this, but exercise doesn't burn a lot of calories um, compared to eating. Like, you'd have to be exercising most of the day if you wanted to try to balance it out with eating. And when you exercise more, you get more hungry, right? Your body needs more fuel brought in. So you get it stuck in this cycle of, I'm starving, but I can't eat because I just burned X number of calories, and this has X number of calories, and then I'll have to do that tomorrow. And you just get in this cycle where you're always playing catch up, and it's you can't catch up. You just can't. And so you constantly feel like a failure. You're constantly hungry, or and once you can't control it anymore, quote unquote, you start binging, and then you feel like a failure in that. Why can't I just control? I'm addicted to sugar. It's like, no, your body's starving. You just ran X number of miles and it needs fuel. That's how your body works. So it just doesn't work on one hand. There's been so many studies that show The difference between people who exercise regularly and don't, between their weights, is like 2 to 3 pounds, if even that. It's just, it's not, that's why I get so frustrated that people, the industry ties it to weight loss, because I'm like, it's just not an effective weight loss tool. There aren't really any, but anyways, that's a whole different discussion. But so I just see people spinning their wheels, and it's just this never ending cycle, and it takes all the joy out of exercise, and it takes all the joy out of eating, and it just becomes a full-time job. I got stuck in that, where I was, okay, I've had this many calories. Okay, and this, I think this burned this, and looking at my tracker. Okay, well, that's kind of off though. I mean, you have no brain space for anything else. And it's just so bad for your health, physical and mental. And it just does not have to be that way. So
Absolutely.
the more you can work on separating it, the better off you're going to be.
Yeah, and learning that metabolism piece too. I'm glad you brought that up, because I was recently doing a training with Marcy Evans, and she brought up that metabolism piece, just a brief science of how metabolism works. And I'm forgetting the percentages right now off the top of my head, but she had it broken down to like movement burns this, roughly this percentage or range of percentage of calories per day. Simply living and having all of your systems in your body run optimally, it burns this many calories.
Right.
Eating, digesting, assimilation, all of that burns this percentage of calories. And I hadn't ever seen it described that way. Again, trying not to use specific numbers, but
Right.
but she gave it in a range of percentages just based on physiology. And when I learned that and started sharing that with clients, it's almost like this light bulb went on a little bit. And also they got kind of pissed too. They're like, wait a minute,
Yes.
I've been duped. I've been running or whatever, like all this time, all these months, I've been paying for the gym membership and feeling guilty for not going. And it wouldn't have made that much difference anyway in terms of weight loss.
Right.
I think that's such a key piece for people to understand. Now, it can help functionality, it can help stamina, it can help flexibility. I mean, you know more, you're the expert on that more than I,
No,
but like,
yeah.
how can we
So many
shift
things.
that? Yeah, how can we shift? Let's focus on those things that exercise contributes to, instead of how it may or may not change your body. I think the other thing that often trips people up is, well, if I'm going to the gym or whatever type of movement that they're forcing themselves to do, and why isn't the scale going down? I forget, well, you're probably building some muscle depending on what you're doing. The scale's not going to necessarily change, or it might even go up because you're changing your body composition. You're going to have muscle and it's heavier. So helping people divorce that idea of what's the scale going to do, what's your body going to do, shape, weight wise, when you start moving, I think just it removes this black veil from them and say, now what movement would you even enjoy? It doesn't have to be the X miles of running. If you don't like running, don't run. Like, there's a lot of other stuff you could do. Yeah. But you're right. So many people get stuck in that place of, but this exercise burns this many calories, so that's why I must force myself to do this exercise, because I'll get more bang for my buck or whatever.
Right. And that, honestly, I've seen it so many times. It leads to overtraining, which leads to injury, and then you're out. You can't exercise for weeks or months. And then what do? Do you just keep cutting your calories? So it brings this whole other aspect in. But like you said, you miss out on other forms of movement that you might really love. Like, I didn't do yoga for years because I'm like, it doesn't burn calories. It's one of my favorite things now. I can't explain how much I love it and how much it's enhanced my life. And I would never have that in my life if I hadn't separated exercising from calorie burn and weight loss and made it all about a better quality of life. And yoga absolutely supports me in having a better quality of life. So it just opens so many doors.
This brings up another great question, a bonus question that I didn't send you, but I think you're going to do fine with, is this concept of enough exercise, both in the amount and in the quality. Because as you were just saying that related to yoga, I was totally in that same boat. Like, if I wasn't going for a run, people know that I was a former competitive marathon runner. If I wasn't going for a run as a part of my training schedule, whatever else I was doing was not enough. So if we were going to go for a hike that day as a family or with friends, I had to get up at 0:30 and go for my run, get in my training schedule,
Mm.
plan, and then go for the hike because it wasn't going to be enough. And same with yoga. I thought, oh, I hear everybody talking about yoga. I was training and racing kind of as yoga was really starting to get popular. And so, oh, okay, I'll go try some of these classes. To be honest, if I would have just gotten over myself and done the yoga, I probably wouldn't have been as injured as I was. But again, it was coming from that place of it's not enough. You're like, my heart rate wasn't up enough, which, our heart rates when you're a trained athlete, it does take some effort to get your heart rate up consistently. And I wasn't sweating enough. Like I had my whole list of reasons of why that's not enough movement. And now I look at it completely different in that it supports other movement you're doing. And some days it is just enough. It's just all I need to get on the mat and do some yoga or do some relaxing. So what are your conversations like with clients or even people that engage with you on Instagram around that enough
Mm-hmm.
movement conversation? What does that look like?
Well, again, from an exercise science standpoint, we don't need as much movement as the fitness industry pounds down our faces. You don't have to live at the gym. You don't have to do hours and hours of exercise, especially if you have an active job or an active day or lifestyle. You probably don't even need to add in, additional like a workout session, if you will. So I always reassure my clients, you don't need to get the health benefits. You don't need as much as, and I don't give them specifics because every individual is different. And I'll train clients who are running marathons, and their exercise is going to look a lot different than someone who works 12-hour days and just wants to get in, 10 minutes of stretching kind of thing to feel better. So one of the tips we use is I'll have them journal, like an exercise journal where they just write before, during, and after. So before they started, how did they feel? During the workout or the exercise session, how did they feel? And then later that day, how did they feel? And so they can start to see these patterns like, okay, I felt so tired before, and then I tried to push myself and then I slept the rest of the day. I was so tired, or, okay, I felt tired before this. So, oh yeah, last time I was really tired and I tried to push myself and it didn't go well. So this time I'm just going to go for a walk or I'm going to do some yoga. And, oh wow, look, I slept really great that night. So they can kind of see how having more attunement with your body. And it doesn't mean you can't have a program or a schedule or structure. Just like with your eating, you can have structure. You need to know what you're making for dinner, but it's just allowing flexibility with the intensity. And if you're not training for something, my goodness, you don't have to get in all these, rigid things. If it's just about feeling better and having a better quality of life, it can be so flexible. But so just knowing the exercise science behind it is enough. Any movement you're doing is enough if you're feeling, if it's helping your day or helping you feel a little bit better. It's enough. That's why it's so important not to tie it to weight loss, because when you do that, then you're like, no, it's not enough. I have to hit X number of calories to get my right deficit so I can hit this goal weight by this time. But when you're doing it for self-care, 5 minutes is enough. It's enough because you're moving and you're taking care of yourself. And that's going to set you up. People who exercise long-term, they approach it like that. There's been numerous studies that show they stay out of that black and white. It has to be this, and they just move, on a regular basis.
And they probably are able to keep doing it for a longer period of time because they don't sustain so many different injuries. Yes. And I think, especially if we can learn that in our younger years, even younger adult years, because that seems like where in that 20s to we start, or late teens, we start having that perception of tying movement to weight loss or tying it to changing my body or how my body looks. And so if we start really kind of abusing our bodies with movement early on in life while we're still doing some development. And if we get injured in our 20s, 30s, like, well, how is that going to affect our quality of life when we are 60, 70, 80? And the people that had more of a balanced relationship with movement, or they just moved however they wanted to, if they were also fortunate enough to not get any injuries, they are able to keep moving well into old age. And I think we don't think in that long-term perspective
Right.
when we're in, especially, and I'll raise my hand to this, in the 20s, because you're thinking you're invincible, and you're also thinking about, well, yeah, but this movement is going to change my body this way, therefore it's going to make me more attractive.
Yes.
And all of the, that whole beauty side to attaching to movement, for sure. Along those lines, I'm curious, and I don't mean to, I'm actually forgetting the author's name and the photographer's name at the moment, but I'm curious on your thoughts around that idea of strong is the new pretty. I don't know if you've seen that. There is an account for that, and there's a book. It's a beautiful, like, coffee table, almost photograph book. And it's around women and girls, of being strong and active, but being tied to beauty.
Right.
I think their mission, the heart is in the right place, but just that tying those two together. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, like you said, I think it had good intentions, and I love that we're talking more about women being strong. Like, women are allowed to lift heavy weights too. We have muscles too. It's not just the weight room isn't just for men. So I like that conversation, but what I don't like, and what I think is it can still cause issues, is, again, tying it to being pretty. It's still tying it to your job as a woman is to be attractive and to be sexy. And right now it's very attractive and trendy to be strong. You have the tiny waist and subtly defined muscles, but not too defined. And you still have to have soft curves. There's very like cartoon almost body. That's what we're supposed to all be aiming for, like an impossible standard. But again, it's still, they cover it with empowerment, like, oh, you're going to be strong and that makes you pretty, instead of you're going to be strong and that means you can kick butt in life, or you can do the things that you were put on this earth to do, which is not to be pretty. So again, if people are empowered by the idea of being strong, which I personally am, and a lot of my clients are, if that resonates with you, how can you take that and turn it into doing things with your life, being strong by, like, running for office or joining the PTA and speaking up about things that are important to you, or whatever it is? Can you turn the strength you get from moving your body into being stronger in your convictions, stronger in your purpose, and not to be more attractive? Because you and I, we're in our 40s, right? And it's just, oh, all the years wasted of trying, it's not fulfilling. It's not the legacy I want to live. It's not what I want to spend my time and energy on anymore. I want to leave this world a better place, and that's not because I had a better face. So, that'd be a good Instagram post. Yeah. But I think, one of the great things about getting older is you do start to have that shift of life is short, and what do I want to leave behind? And so, yeah, taking that message, strong is the new pretty, and be like, strong is for me. Strong is for me, and then I can go out in the world and be a strong person for someone else that needs that.
I agree 100%. And I posted something when I first saw the book come out, and I was like, what do people think about this? And again, not to shame the photographer or where she's coming from at all, because I totally agree with the empowerment part, that I think that's where that's what is infused in that concept the most. But again, when you see it through the cultural lens of, why does that word pretty even need to be in
Right.
there?
Right.
And you're right, like how to many of my clients similar to yours of saying, I want to get back to moving my body. Maybe some of them have not been moving their body because again, they're trying to separate it from their dieting past. And they're recognizing I want to move again because I want to feel strong. And if and when I've taken some clients out on hikes, outdoor adventures, and when they finish that, they're like, this was amazing. Like not only did they move their body in a way that felt empowering to them, but maybe they learned the new skill of how to pack a backpack, or even what to eat during the day so
Mm,
that they could consistently nourish themselves and not be like, oh great, I'm going on this hike, it's going to burn this many calories, I don't need to take food with me, or whatever. So
right.
there is this real strong sense of empowerment that comes from seeing women in particular do that exercise, do that movement. But again, it's that work of like divorcing it from how is your body going to look. And I love what you said about saying, can we shift that empowerment towards other areas in our life, and stop focusing it on what we look like, and how much more could we get done in life, how much more of an impact could we have on life and the people around us, especially younger women and
Mm,
girls that are, whether they are your daughters or nieces or someone that is a coach at a youth program or something like that. They're the little ears and eyes are watching,
hmm.
and not just little but just younger too. And to have that impression of, wow, here's this woman that is built, is strong, and just living her life the best way that she knows how to, and having a strong presence in her life instead of focusing on everything about what she looks like. That's such a impactful mentor to like have in a
Hmm.
young woman's life for sure. So
Definitely. Definitely.
yeah. Is there, as we wrap up, is there anything else that you want to share with folks? Any programming you have going on, or how can people get in touch with you? And I highly recommend folks follow at least your Instagram, because you knock it out of the park on your Instagram with so
Oh,
many
thank you.
great tips. So where can people learn more about what you have going on, Julie?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the best. That's really the only place. Except I do have a website. So my Instagram is the dot intuitive dot trainer, and then my website is julienewbry.com, just my name. Yeah, I'm hoping to launch some stuff this summer, some virtual stuff. I think it's fun to have groups get together and brainstorm together ways to navigate this. So that's sort of my hope for the summer, is to get some groups going where we can kind of support each other as we try to navigate moving our bodies without it being aesthetically focused. So
That
that's me.
sounds great. I've had a number of clients that's one of the things that they were missing in the pandemic time, is just having some community around
Yes.
movement. And I think that's a great opportunity to have community around movement that is not always tied to gym culture.
Yes.
So thinking outside of that community movement box, that's fantastic. Well, I will put links to all of that in the show notes, that people can find over on my website. And again, thank you so much for being here. This has
Thank
been a
you.
great conversation, and I can't wait to still keep in touch and keep supporting each other and what we're
Hmm.
doing, and tagging off of our work. So thank you again for taking the time to
Thank
be
you.
here.